Egmore also is a symbol. LIC building is also a symbol if you look at it. They are all, this is what we associate Chennai with. There is a lot of romance associated with the tram. The tram was a failed model. First and foremost, Panam Panitha Illya. Mount Road pore, town pore. These were the two places where everybody worked. The moment we saw those three chimneys, we knew that we had come to Basin Bridge. Yeah, Chennai, that means Basin Bridge Thermal Power Station. We used to see that. Now that has vanished. But we have certain symbols that we are very proud of. We can't do it. We have to preserve it. It's our responsibility because it's part of our heritage also. There is a very sincere effort. Like for instance, Rajaji Hall is being restored. Chepauk Palace is being restored. VP Hall is being restored. Why we don't preserve it? Well, as South Indians, we are very poor in presenting anything. We have one very humble, Chennai was the birthplace of what the British called the Indo-Saracenic style of architecture. It is a combination of Islamic and Hindu architecture. Area, city had its own impact or influence. So for instance, if you look at the
Hello Ritz viewers, so today we have Mr. Sreeram with us, historian. So we're going to talk more about the evolution of this Chennapatnam or Madras or Chennai.
See, Chennai was the birthplace of what the British called the Indo-Saracenic style of architecture. So the Indo-Saracenic style is not unique to the British. So even prior to the British, if you look at Mughal architecture, if you even look at Vijayanagar architecture, it is a combination of Islamic and Hindu architecture. So when you go to Hampi and you look at the Queen's Pond or you look at the bathing area, you find lots of Islamic elements. Similarly, Bijapur, you find Golconda, you find. Then Mughals also were incorporating it, particularly in the southern areas. So when the British came, they combined it. They added a small element of Gothic also to it, and they called it the Indo-Saracenic style. The first example of that is Chepauk Palace, which was built in 1768. Then for 100 years, not much happened. But then in the 1860s, when Robert Chisholm came here as the architect, and he began designing Presidency College, the PWD building, he was designing in the British style. Then he was sent to Thirumalai Nayak Mahal in Madurai for restoration. When he saw that, he was very impressed. And then he went to Bijapur, he went to Chandragiri, he went to many places. When he came back, he designed the University Senate House in the Indo-Saracenic style. 100 years after, exactly 100 years after Chepauk Palace, you had the University Senate House. So when that got constructed, that became the style of British construction. Wherever the British Empire went, this was the style. But each area, city had its own impact or influence. So for instance, if you look at the Calcutta style of Indo-Saracenic, you will find a lot of Gothic and classical elements in it. Similarly, if you go to Bombay, you will also find Gothic. You'll essentially find, it's called Bombay Gothic, in fact. Less of the Saracenic and more of the Bombay Gothic. But Calcutta is more classical, and partially Gothic. So we were specialists in this. Finally, when New Delhi was built, it was the Indo-Saracenic style combined with modern elements, which is what you have in Rashtrapati Bhavan and buildings of that nature. Why we don't preserve it? Well, as South Indians, we are very poor in presenting anything. We have one very humble, யாருக்கும் தெரியாம இருந்தா நல்லா இருக்கும், திருஷ்டி விழுந்துரும், பொல்லாத கெட்ட கண்ணு நம்ம மேல விழுந்துரும், அதனால இருக்கிறதெல்லாம் போயிடும். So we believe in keeping everything hidden, and it's only lately that we have begun to realize, and we have always had this conflict of whether we want to preserve colonial buildings. There is ஒரு armchair activistன்னு ஒரு வெரைட்டி இருக்கு. அது why we should preserve British era buildings அப்படின்னு முதல்ல சோஷியல் மீடியாவில் ஒரு போஸ்ட் போடும். The question is, history is pleasant and unpleasant. You cannot only keep the pleasant history and get rid of the unpleasant history. It is still there. You cannot wish it away. So even if we don't like it, it's a part of our past. And we studied in those buildings, Presidency College, how many graduates have come out? We can't do it. We have to preserve it. It's our responsibility because it's part of our heritage also. Only now I find that there is a very sincere effort, like for instance, Rajaji Hall is being restored, Chepauk Palace is being restored, VP Hall is being restored. They are talking about this veterinary university being restored. So I think there's a solid good work the government is doing. But many buildings have also gone. That also we have to live with.
So when we say Chennai or Madras, it is always the central which comes to the image, and ribbon building. So, what is so special about central architectural styles, and what is so special about the ribbon building architecture?
I can't say that there is anything very special about either, but they are very remarkable buildings. That is what I would say. And they are symbols of our city. Egmore also is a symbol. LIC building is also a symbol if you look at it. They are all, this is what we associate Chennai with. If you look at one generation earlier, they will say those three funnels, chimneys that used to be near Basin Bridge. That was the other big thing that people of my generation used to associate with Chennai. When we came by train, the moment we saw those three chimneys, we knew that we had come to Basin Bridge. Yeah, Chennai, that means Basin Bridge Thermal Power Station. We used to see that. Now that has vanished. But we have certain symbols that we are very proud of and we are very happy with. I would say ribbon building, central, and they are maintained very well also. Unlike many other heritage buildings that don't get this kind of maintenance, ribbon building, white in color, and central with red in color, and very well to look at, very nice. So I think that is what really appeals to all of us.
So one thing I read it in online, that Tambaram beach line, that's very, very special line which was being constructed during the British era. So the EMU project, as in like from Tambaram to beach. So what is that history which is still stuck with the Tambaram beach EMU line?
See, one is, it is public transport, right? In those days, remember that everybody was coming to the beach area for work. Mount Road pore, town pore. These were the two places where everybody worked. It was not like today where you have offices everywhere. Chennai is now spread out considerably, but it was not like that at that time. So they needed transportation. Secondly, they needed to connect the southern part of the city to the northern part of the city, which is how the entire line was originally laid, and finally the EMUs kind of took over. So public transportation, which is what really provides for the success or the failure of a city. Ultimately, if people cannot go from one place to the other, that city is a failure. And Chennai has always been struggling with its public transport. Now we are providing metro. We have had so many other experiments, MRTS, and then, so we are looking at, one time monorail was being talked about, it has not happened. Ring roads. So it's a part of our historic journey of how we provide. That's about it, essentially.
Okay. What about the trams, sir?
The tram was a failed model. So lots of people keep talking, oru kaalathula tram odithu. First and foremost, panam panitha illaya. Idhaan kelvi. Today or any day, historically also, if Chennai had not been a profitable center for business, Chennai would not have survived. Ultimately, everybody has to eat. And the tram had to make money. Now, you may say public transport, Pallavan transport also is not making money today. That is true. But it is not making money due to other reasons, which we don't have to get into. The point is that the tram was slow. Secondly, it was only connecting certain parts of the city. The Tramway Corporation did not have money to expand beyond that. They were looking to the government for giving them money. Post-Indian independence, the government had even less money. It is not like today, when governments today are flush with money and they are able to finance big projects. In those days, those avenues did not exist. There is a lot of romance associated with the tram. People talk about how they went to the court, how they went to shop and all that, but everybody, you read historic accounts, they all say the tram was terribly slow. And it took ages to go from one place to the other. Such a mode of transport would have never succeeded for a long period of time.
Okay.